Thanks again for joining us. This is the T0 Endurance webinars, the I Wish I Was Racing series. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. We have a great guest today, Bob Babbitt. So excited to have you here, Bob.
Well, thank you, Fireman Rob. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You know, it's a challenging time, but I see the Hawaii pictures in the background. I see the surfboard, the Hawaiian shirt, and it just makes me smile.
Well, you know what? The nice thing is you got to look at the glass isn't half full; it's overflowing. We get a chance to, when's the last time you used an alarm clock? You don't need an alarm clock. You don't need to wear a belt. You don't need to wear pants. You don't need to go to dry cleaners. There's positives out of this, right? You don't do that. If you're doing, when you're on your bike, I'm riding with my eyes closed. I'm not wearing a helmet. You know what? You just make the best of what's out there. And for me, I've never done Zwift before, and I've become a big time Zwifter. I love it. It's the best thing ever.
Oh, it's good. It's being able to be part of the endurance community still and be in your home.
Well, as we were chatting before, people are, when we look back at history after 9/11, after the financial crisis, I think what happens is people look inward and they go, okay, we just went through a horrific time. What's important? What's really important? Is buying a new couch important? Is taking care of my health important? Health always wins out after these type of horrific experiences. People have been stuck indoors, and think about it, Rob. How many times have you woken up on a Saturday morning planning to do a race and you're going, do I really? I'll do it next year. Well, now you don't know. Who knows what races are going to be able to survive and come back. And if you have an opportunity to go do a race or experience something special, I think people are going to look at things totally different. They're going to be looking at it and going, I'm going to take every opportunity. I mean, I raced 30 times last year. I'm going out of my mind, not putting a race number on every single weekend. So now it makes you're sort of forced not to. So when it comes back, man, people are going to be coming out in droves.
I totally agree with you. And I think it's one of those things where, there's a lot of people, we talked with Meredith yesterday about the importance of staying focused and staying positive. There's a lot of people that signed up for their first race ever.
Right.
First race ever, and it's canceled. What would you say to them? I mean, you've been around this sport for years, and we'll get into your backstory because it's a good one. But what would you say to those people who are looking at this going, do I really need to do this? Do I really want to do this after all this?
I think you'll want to do it more. You're the fact that you can't do it, that we can't just go out there and wake up on Saturday morning and decide, I'll just go down there and register for 5K or 10K. Maybe to a certain degree, we took a lot of this for granted, that it was always going to be there. We can always go do whatever race we want whenever we want. Well, now we can't. So like I said, when races come back, hopefully when the world gets back to normal, we'll be back racing again, because there's the camaraderie that comes with racing, the social part of it. Yeah, it's nice to go fast and win a medal or a trophy or whatever, but it's you against you when you go to a race. And you against the course. And when you have that type of experience, you come away, think about how many times you get up at 4 a.m. to get to a race at 5, to stand around and not start till 7 or 8. And then, you're doing a sprint race and you're finishing and you're in a beer garden at 9 a.m. Is there anything better than that? There's nothing.
It's a good day.
Most people aren't up yet. And you're toasting your best buddies. I remember last Cinco de Mayo, we had a triathlon in San Diego, the San Diego Sprint, which is put on by CAF Enterprises here. And we're in the beer garden. It's actually Cinco de Mayo is my birthday. I had sombreros for all my buddies. We're having a beer in the beer garden at probably 9:15 in the morning. There's nothing better, right? There's absolutely nothing better. One of my favorites was, we do these Tri-Club of San Diego aquathons. It's a 1,000-meter swim and then a 5K run on the beach. And we do them on Thursday night, like the third Thursday of the month, starting in May or June. And the cool thing is, we're getting 300 plus people out there, totally free if you're part of the club. And we walk down to this really classy restaurant called Marine Room, which is where the swim starts. And you get the people sitting inside the restaurant having their 8-course meal, right? And they're looking at us going, what a bunch of idiots. And we're going, what a bunch of idiots. That's what we love to do. If we have the option of trading places and sitting there having an 8-course meal and looking at the ocean, or being in the ocean and then finishing that swim and running on the beach as the sun is going down and having a buffet on the beach with all your buddies at things starting at 6. So by 7 o'clock, again, you're sort of in a beer garden with your best buddies, hanging out. And there's nothing better than the feeling you get from doing any event.
That's the amazing part of triathlon. That just brings so much to it. Now I want to get to your backstory, because this is something that is so exciting. I mean, you can see in the background, that was the year before you did it.
Yeah.
The Ironman Kona, but
no,
what did you say it was called?
Before we were on, it was called the Nautilus Triathlon. And we went over, that year it was still the Ironman. So the picture behind me is actually the 15 idiots on Sanssouci Beach, 12 finishers in both 1978 and 79. So 78 looked very similar. And you look, I love that photo. I have that, blown up and right behind me, because it's something I draw on all the time. When you start looking at over the years, you're growing a business, you're doing all sorts of different stuff. Think about the simplicity of somebody jumping in the water. When they said 2.4, 112, 26.2, the people went there in 1978, 15 starters, 12 finishers. I bet a lot of them had no idea if they could even go that far. And was it going to take days? I thought, to show you an idiot I was, and when we went over 1980, there was 108 of us, and I thought that you swam 2.4, rode 56, camped out, rode back the next day. So I have pannier, sleeping bag, and tent on my $75 police auction bike with my Radio Shack radio. There we go.
There's the radio.
There was the radio. Yeah. It was different. It was a different time. We didn't know what we were getting into. My roommate at the time was a guy named Ned Overend, who went on to become world mountain bike champion. And we met rock climbing down in Mexico. And we ended up getting an apartment together by the beach in San Diego. And we read about this thing called the Ironman. And in the article in Sports Illustrated, 8-page feature on this event. And this guy, Tom Warren, won the event. And Tom owned a bar here in San Diego called Tug's Tavern. And Ned and I had done Tommy's event called Tug Swim Run Swim. You swam a half mile around this pier, Crystal Pier. You ran 5 miles on a beach and you swam around the pier again. Now, for swimmers, this was the ultimate revenge type of thing. Because think about it. A swimmer gets out of the water and spends the rest of his day getting passed, right? If you're primarily a swimmer, your best thing is first and the rest of the day sucks. So in this event, the best part was, if you were a swimmer, which I wasn't, I was a little running guy, the swimmers swam over you and went out of their way to swim over you on the way back around the pier at the end of this thing. And you finished the race. You came across the finish line. Of course, back then, you didn't have timing systems. They'd hand you a popsicle stick with your number on it, and then they'd staple it up on a board, right? Which worked pretty well. But you came across the finish line, but the real finish was 4 blocks away, because you ran to Tug's Tavern, and they had breakfast which was runny eggs and a Tug's glass, and the first 75 people got breakfast. So you wanted to be standing there with your plate with runny eggs and a glass when the 76th guy showed up, and
just to rub it in.
Yeah. So anyway, we tracked down this guy Tom Warren to ask him about, Mr. Warren, sir, can you tell us about this Ironman thing? And he asked me to meet him at his office, and I'm like, hey, where's your office? He goes, well, it's on the west side of the pier. It's on the south side of the pier, just west of west side of the pier, just south of Crystal Pier. So I'm like, okay, we go down there. It's a parking lot, and there's a motorhome, and there's a board on top, paddleboard on top. There's a bike on the back, and there's running shoes tied on the side of your mirror. And I put my head in, and I hear this, Babbitt, welcome to my office. And he had a roll of dimes in the console, and there was a payphone behind us, and he would go to the payphone after going for a swim and running 5 miles and riding his bike to Oceanside and back. He'd go to the payphone and he'd order tortilla chips or whatever he needed for the bar, ordered kegs. So we take him to the bar. It's like 9:30 in the morning, and they're used to seeing him there. And we're like, Mr. Warren, how do you sign? It's not like you go online and sign up for this stuff. Nobody knew anybody who did this thing. So how do you find out? How do you do it? How do you sign up? What does it cost? How do you train for it? We had no idea. So he's like, oh, he's telling us about, well, there's a person in Hawaii and he's got a magic marker. And every time he has a sip of his beer, he makes a mark on his arm. And so we're thinking this has something to do with his training or something to do with this is his nutrition thing.
Calorie count.
Mr. Warren, what are you doing, sir? And he's like, well, I have this little bit of a drinking problem. I make a mark on my arm every time I have a beer, and when I get to my sleeve, I go home. So at that point, we realized that this sport is really full of crazy people. We went back to his house, and now Lionel Sanders would relate to this because he had a bike mounted in a sauna, and he'd ride 5 hours a day in his bike to get ready for Hawaii. But back then, he was just an eccentric lunatic. We had no idea. So that's when Ned and I went to the police auction and got bikes. And, again, we had no idea. We sent our $25 in, and you had to have a crew.
You said $25, right?
$25 entry fee. Yeah. And I was number 3. And now see how it says Nautilus? It wasn't the Ironman. They didn't call it the Ironman. Right, because in 1978-79, when it was the Ironman, you got this little hole in the head trophy, which was
You have all of the good. This is like, oh, look at that.
So that was the there it is there.
That is so cool.
Anyways, so you had that's what we wanted. We went over for the hole in head trophy. Tom Warren was on Johnny Carson, and he took. Johnny was like, Tom, well, you did this race for how much money did you get for doing 2.4 miles? He goes, I for the trophy. He goes, Johnny Carson turned the thing over and goes, it's missing a screw. It's like that sort of summed up who we were and why we did what we did. So we get over there, and the night before the race, remember the original swim was a Waikiki rough water swim, and we're standing on the balcony of the host hotel, and the waves are breaking 10 feet up, the huge storm surge. And Ned and I did all of our swimming in a 120 length in a mile pool, right, in Mission Valley here in San Diego. And we're looking at each other going, it's been nice knowing you, but we're both going to die tomorrow. So the race director brings us in, and he's like, guys, I got, good news and bad news. Good news is I've got Wide World of Sports, ABC, is here to cover the event based on the Sports Illustrated article last year they came to cover it. But they didn't come over just for us. On Sunday, they're shooting cliff diving. We're tomorrow morning. If we have to move the event a day because of the storm surf, we're going to lose Wide World of Sports. So I'm moving the swim to Ala Moana Channel because that way there won't be big surf. Well, as you can imagine, the majority of the 108 people who were there, Navy SEALs, Dave Scott, Rick Kozlowski, these are guys who swim with knives in their teeth, right? So they Ned and I, not quite so much. So all the guys are like, what a pussy event. You can't change Ironman. It's the Ironman. And Ned and I are like, yeah, you can't change it, knowing we were going to live. Yeah. So we get out there the next morning, and I'm swimming along. And as I'm swimming, 4 lengths, and I'm staying as shallow as I can, right? It's 4 lengths of Ala Moana. On my way back, I'm coming back. There's a guy in the race John Huckabee, 59 years old. And his claim to fame was he did the Athens Marathon 3 times in a row in one day. Ran the marathon like over 75 miles. So, but he couldn't swim. No idea. He'd never swam before in his life, right? Ever. So I'm swimming on my way back. I almost run into the guy. He's walking the swim, moving his arms, doing this, right? He's the only guy in the history of Ironman to get blisters on his feet during the Ironman Triathlon World Championship. And get out of the water. I've got like a long sleeve shirt on with a pocket sewed in the back because who knew what to eat? I had
and a big beard, right?
Kid I taught, her dad lived over there, and he and his 2 girlfriends were my crew. They had a Fiat convertible. I gave them all I realized that I wouldn't be needing. I didn't think I'd be needing the sleeping bag and tent. So I put that in the convertible along with 50 loaves of Hawaiian sweetbread and all this Gatorade. So we're riding. I get on the bike and I'm tuning in my radio, right? And going through Waikiki thinking this is the coolest thing ever. And my crew is about 25 miles in, and they're on the side of the road. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be Tour de France. They're going to give me a food handoff just like it's a tour. It's a brown bag with a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke. It melts. Sweet, right?
That's
90,
sweet.
90 miles, root beer snow cone.
Oh,
Finish the bike, come in, and there's a bamboo mat laid out at the Alamoana Tower, and I hear this boom box playing music, and my crew was like, "How about a massage?" I'm like, "Oh,
oh,
great!"
jeez.
45-minute massage between a bike and a run.
Longest transition ever.
Who cares? So then we start doing, and they had a rule back then. If you lost 5% of your body weight, they pulled you out of the race. So you had to get off your bike a couple times and get on a scale, and then in the run as well. So I finished the bike, and I get weighed, and then I'm walking and waddling through Waikiki, eating Hawaiian sweetbread and drinking Gatorade, and I get to about mile 5, and I get on the scale again, and I can hear the guy in a walkie-talkie. He's like, "Hey, can you give me that again? The guy's gained 4 pounds. You can't." So then I'm, running along, and it's the Honolulu Marathon course, and I'm running up Diamond Head, and I'm thinking, this is mile 22, 23, and I'm like, I'm going to finish this thing. I never thought I was going to do this thing in one day. I'm going to finish this thing. My crew is behind me in their Fiat convertible with their headlights on me, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. There's going to be bands at the finish. There's going to be cheerleaders. We come down into Kapilani Park, and there's a chalk line on the ground and a light bulb over my head. And I look down, and I hear this voice out here in the darkness like, "Hey, you." I'm like, "Yeah." "You in the race?" "Yeah." "You're done." There was one guy doing 1-arm push-ups in the park and me. And that was it. And you finished, and you were like, I just knew that if this thing changed me like it did, if I did something I never thought I could do, that this thing would be really special. So when I came home, a guy named Mike Plant had a magazine called San Diego Track Club News, and he had changed it to San Diego Running News, and talked to him. He had covered early triathlons, and eventually I became LA. I left teaching and became LA editor of Running and Triathlon News. And the rest is history. He believed in me before I believed in myself, and he was just inducted in the USA Triathlon Hall of Fame.
That's unbelievable. That is amazing.
But it led, really, finishing that Ironman led to leaving teaching, led to starting Competitor Magazine in June of 1987, led to us growing Competitor to 500,000 circulation, 11 editions of Competitor, and that became the Competitor Group. And we owned, in 2008, we became the Competitor Group, and had a series I started called Muddy Buddy. Had 7 Muddy Buddy events, which is 2 people in a mountain bike and take turns running and riding and climbing over obstacles. And I was in a frog suit, and it was because it was leapfrog. You took turns running and riding. And then had 7 rock and roll marathons, and that grew from 2008, 2012. We grew Muddy Buddy from 7 events to 18 events, and from rock and roll from 7 to 34. And that was during the financial crisis. And that showed me that people care, they realize when there's trauma, when there's stuff like we're talking about dealing with now, one of the first industries to come back is endurance, because you realize how much it means to you. You realize it means more than, going out for that really nice dinner. It means way more than that new couch. It means everything, because it's sort of your identity, who you are and what you do.
It's so powerful. And you've told so many people's stories on Babbittville Radio. People can actually listen to that. It's on Apple Podcasts, or you can go to babbittville.com and find out more. Also, with Breakfast with Bob and Kona, you're gonna have to do that maybe virtually this year.
I'm interviewing Cam Wirth tomorrow morning.
Oh,
we won't do it live, but we'll be posting. Yeah, we're starting to do virtually Breakfast with Bob. We got Poncho Man recorded a song, and so,
you're kidding. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
How many years have you been doing that in Kona?
Last year was a 10th anniversary. We've just posted, starting yesterday. Wait, is today Tuesday? Yeah. So we posted the championship edition of Breakfast with Bob up on our YouTube channel. The championship edition from 2015 went up yesterday. Today is 16, then 17, 18, and 19. So it's pretty fun.
That's amazing. The other great thing that you do, and this is probably one of the most amazing, impactful organizations. I got to be a part of it in Oceanside with the Operation Rebound, but you're a co-founder of the Challenge Athletes Foundation.
Yep.
Tell us more about that, because it's so powerful. The stories, we're going to actually have some of the inspirational videos on this afterwards, but tell us more about what that is.
Sure. So a friend of ours, actually, everything starts with Ironman, right? So Jim McLean was a football player at Yale, 300-pound guy, and he was an offensive lineman. And in 1985, he was taking acting classes in New York, was on his motorcycle going to class when he got hit by a bus, thrown 90 feet in the air, dead on arrival. He lived, but lost his lower leg below the knee. Came back from that and ran a 3:16 marathon with a walking leg. Then he went 10:42 in Kona with a walking leg. And I met him in Kona while he was becoming the Babe Ruth of amputee athletes and changing perception. So Jimmy and I became close. And then in 93, he was doing a triathlon in Orange County, and a van goes through a closed intersection, hits the back of his bike, propels him headfirst into a pole. A guy who's already an amputee became a quadriplegic. And at that point, two close friends, Jeffrey Asikow, who had been with the Tinley Clothing Company, and Rick Kozlowski, who was a local race director, and we finished Ironman together in 1980. The three of us got together, and the goal was to put on a little triathlon at La Jolla Cove and to raise $25,000 to buy Jimmy a van with hand controls. I covered a lot of wheelchair athletes through the competitor, and the one thing I'd hear from them when I interview them and ask them, what's the worst part about your life now as someone who's paralyzed? And it was invariably, I'm 30 years old, here come mom and dad back in my life. No sense of self, no sense of independence. So we felt this van would give Jimmy independence. We put this triathlon on, we raised $49,000. We think our job is done. And then three amputee women come up to us. They're like, it's great what you did for Jimmy, but did you know if you get injured, your health insurance covers a walking around leg or an everyday wheelchair? Nothing to do with sport is covered because sport is considered a luxury item. Well, that's when we got our 501(c) and decided if someone needed a piece of equipment, train, or travel to stay in a game of life through sport, that we'd be there. We're moving on 27 years now.
Wow.
We sent out over 26,000 grants. Actually, it's close to over 27,000 grants. We've raised over $112 million. Right after everything got shut down, middle of March, we sent out 3,921 grants totaling $5.9 million to athletes in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, 42 countries, and for equipment, training, or travel in 103 different sports. And who the hell knew there were 103 different sports? I had no idea. But
amazing.
It's been amazing. Our athletes are so special, and I'd highly recommend people go to the Challenge Athletes YouTube page, Facebook page, and check out some of the reaction of these kids when they get their grants, and the adults. They get their grants for a piece of equipment, and think about so many of our folks their income status is very low. They're making $30,000 or so. To get a $5,000 racing chair, or to get a hand cycle, to get a hockey sled, that's something they could never afford. And that's what's so special about it. And just watching, sport is underestimated in terms of the power, right? It changes people's lives for the better. It makes them feel comfortable in their own skin. It gives them that feeling that they can accomplish anything, which is what I'm concerned about right now with a lot of our athletes who are stuck at home. So much of our athletes' identity can be tied to the sport: wheelchair basketball, quad rugby, all these different blind beep baseball for blind folks. All of a sudden their social group is gone. All of a sudden the sport they love is gone. And so many times, their identity is gone. So it's really important that we keep our folks pumped up and excited that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we'll all be back out there racing again.
That's so true. And they can go to challengedathletes.org and find out more about that.
Yep.
At T0, we're going to be a huge proponent of CAF.
Thank you.
We're going to have videos on there so that people can see that inspiration, because it's not a lot of people see the endurance world as a me sport.
It is very selfish, right?
It is, but it's a positive, selfish in the fact that we're all growing each other. We're all growing our personalities, our self-worth, our self-reliance. As a community, we band together. And I think this is one of those times when you see why people love this triathlon community. Yeah. Now, being a part of the CAF, Empowering Lives Through Sports, you have an amazing weekend. And we talked to Meredith about this. It's the best day in triathlon.
Best day in tri. Yep. Coming up October 18th, hopefully.
Yep, October 18th. And how can people be a part of that day? Because that's such a powerful day.
It's really a powerful day. It's like a three-ring circus. We've got, you've got the a 1 mile swim, 44-mile bike, 10-mile run, approximately those distances. But we don't block off a road, right? This is a open road type event. And it's less of a racing triathlon as we'll have 200 challenge athletes from all over the planet there. And the importance of that is so many times a kid in a wheelchair might be the only kid in his school in South Dakota or wherever, right? Only amputee. I had a mom come up to me a couple of years ago, and she goes, "You guys don't realize, for 364 days a year, my son feels like a freak. He comes here and he's like everybody else. Everybody's the same. There's legs everywhere. There's wheelchairs everywhere. There's all these prosthetists who are learning from each other. How did you build that leg for Jimmy?" And seeing our kids grow up, and Rudy Garcia Tolson, who you'll have on, Rudy, 7 or 8 when we met him, 15 operations, a double above knee amputee, asked his parents to cut his legs off at the age of 6, and was the first kid we worked with, and now has been to 4 Paralympic Games. He's 31 years old. He works with the New York Roadrunners, running their wheelchair program in New York. And he was the first double above knee amputee to finish an Ironman when he finished Ironman Arizona back in 2009. Jeez. And he's been the Pied Piper. All these kids who have followed his lead. When I was at the Paralympic trials for swimming in 2016, there was like 6 other kids who got into swimming because of Rudy and were at the Paralympic trials and will eventually be Paralympic medalists because of Rudy. Yo.
Accomplishment. Yep. I think you froze, Bob.
You froze on me there for a bit. I'm like, I know.
It all froze.
Man, the guy froze there for a while. There's a popsicle. What the hell?
Yeah, this is a professionally run organization here, Bob.
Very good. Yeah, I could tell.
So, yeah, in addition to all of your accolades and everything like that, you're also in the Ironman Hall of Fame and also in the USA Triathlon Hall of Fame, right?
I'm the first fat guy inducted in both. I was very proud of that. nice to get. It's always nice to be recognized. People are wonderful. I mean, the deal is, this is the world's greatest sport, and it's fortunately I had a platform with Competitor Magazine and then with Competitor Radio, which became Babbitt Radio, to showcase these amazing athletes. To be able to, we started a radio show in 1990. We weren't just growing a company. We needed to grow awareness of our sport. So I felt it was important to go to a sports radio station and go, listen, I want people to hear an interview with Magic Johnson, an interview with Wayne Gretzky, and then an interview with Dave Scott or Paul Newby Frazier, because our athletes are as good as they are. In fact, one of my favorite things at the Competitor Endurance Awards, we honored Will Ferrell one year. He ran a 356
I saw that.
marathon, and Will, his speech, besides taking a goo during the middle of his speech because he needed to hide, he needed nutrition, he was hilarious. He talked about that our athletes are the greatest athletes in the world, and they don't get the credit they deserve. And That's amazing. Absolutely the case. It's one of my favorite pieces of video. And Will was, he came and did our triathlon, and he and Jim Carrey ran like 1:39 for the hilly half marathon with Paul Huddle and Wendy Ingram pacing him. And yeah, those guys were very serious about this stuff. And watching.
How'd you like to be running with them though? That'd be entertaining.
The best part ever is they finish the run, and who's waiting for them but Robin Williams. So you got Robin Williams, Will Ferrell, and Jim Carrey, all just cutting up right there. Actually, the best Robin story. Robin came 11 years in a row to San Diego Triathlon.
Wow.
And he was teamed up with Rudy Garcia Tolson. And Rudy carried this little business card that said, "A brave heart is a powerful weapon." And Robin loved Rudy. Robin had, I think he had 86 bicycles that when he passed, those bikes were between the Reeves Foundation and CAF, raised about $600,000 for charity. Yeah. But anyway, so what Robin loved more than anything is, all the media would be down there. And why are they there on race day? Because Robin Williams is there.
Right.
Invariably, one of the reporters would be, they're doing the weather or whatever they're doing from there. And they're like, I think Mr. Williams would do a little interview. And I was like, Robin was like, is it live? Yes, it is. So I go, Robin, KUSI over here would like to interview you. And he goes, is it live? I said, yes, it is. So he goes over and the woman goes, so Mr. Williams, and this is when our bike ride was 56 miles. Mr. Williams, how are you going to feel after that 56-mile bike ride? He's like, is this live? Yeah, it is. I'm going to feel like there's a river of sweat like Niagara Falls running down the crack of my ass. That's the best. Putting a microphone in front of Robin Williams like putting raw meat in front of a lion. That's just.
Yeah.
The other thing he did was when we were, Rudy was getting the Casey Martin Award, and Casey was this golfer who had a circulation problem and had to use a cart, right? And Nike was his sponsor, so they did this Casey Martin Award every year for people who were motivational for the disabled, and Casey comes walking out on stage to give Rudy the award, and he goes, I wanted to give Rudy the award, but because it's named after me, but somebody flew all night after performing in New York last night, and he wanted to give Rudy this award. And Robin comes bounding out on stage.
Oh my gosh!
He goes, hey, listen, they keep telling me that Rudy's a challenged athlete. He says, you know what a challenged athlete is? Some 300-pound guy trying to squeeze into a pair of bike shorts. That's a challenge. Class athlete. All right, so that was Robin. He was very, very special.
And that speaks to volumes to how powerful that community, that CAF community is, that you have all these high-powered individuals that are coming and see the power that these challenge athletes but what you're saying is world-class athletes bring the sport, and that's huge.
Well, and seeing our athletes, it's funny because we have the Paralympics and you have adaptive sports, which is great. But I think that mixture of having challenged athletes in regular open events, like in the Ironman, we had a lower leg amputee named Paul Martin. And one of the greatest compliments that he had ever received was he passed 2 Germans during the marathon. And one of the Germans turned to the other German and goes, challenged athlete, my ass. That's like the ultimate compliment. It's like Rudy's whole goal when he was a little kid was to beat a kid with legs. That's what he wanted, right?
Wow.
One-arm Willie Stewart, he did Leadman last year. You try doing that where you're riding,
easy.
And you're doing a 100-mile mountain bike, 100-mile run, 50-mile mountain bike, 50-mile run, and then a marathon. Yeah, and try that without an arm, with missing an arm on one side. Yeah. And so our athletes are incredibly special, incredibly motivating, and they change lives every single day.
That's awesome, and you've been a part of that, Bob. Well, Bob, I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Because I think it's important, and you've been in the sport forever. You've motivated and inspired people. What would be the advice that you'd give to those individuals that are sitting at home going, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what challenges are going to come about. What would be the advice Bob Babbitt will give them?
The thing is, we don't know, right? Not knowing is actually a good thing. So what I gained from Ironman was you can be standing there in the bay and going, I've got to do 140.6 miles and be totally destroyed, and then be swimming along going, oh my God, I'm only 200 yards into a 2.4 mile swim. Or you can go, hey, I'm a quarter way through the swim. I'm halfway to the turnaround. Everything is a positive, right? So you gain from those. How many times have you been in an Ironman or been in a marathon where you feel like crap? Or you're going, I'm 13 miles into a marathon. I can't do another. I'm only halfway. Those thoughts, those defeating thoughts, you got to get them out of your head. We're all going to get through this. At this point, you can look at this moment in time and go, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life, right? When we were kids, we didn't have Zwift. We didn't have all sorts of those type of toys. You had push-ups. You had sit-ups. You ran in place. You jump rope. You stretch cords. There's ways to get in the best shape of your life and be thinking, hey, while I'm inside, I'm going to create the best version of me. I'm going to change myself for the better. Maybe it's learning a language, right? We're going to be stuck for a while. Maybe it's learning something on the computer that you don't know, becoming more efficient at QuickBooks or whatever the heck you need to do. But the key is you use this as an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity. You just never know where it's going to take you. One of the stories that I always love to tell is this young man, Emmanuel Fosu from Ghana, was born with a deformed leg. And there's a kid who had no hope in life. People in Ghana were begging on the side of the road. And that was his lot in life. Well, over time, and you could check out the movie Emmanuel's Gift, this kid went from shining shoes for a couple $dollars a day to having a movie made of his life narrated by Oprah, to being in the White House with President Bush, and then becoming a motivational speaker traveling the world. And he had no hope, had no idea. And there wasn't, and I tell people this as well, sometimes there's no plan. It's great to have a business plan. It's great to sit down and people, what's your business plan? There wasn't a business plan for having Emmanuel end up riding a bicycle with one leg. We sent him a bicycle and he rode a bike with one leg, 620 kilometers across Ghana, and then ended up bringing him here to San Diego to do our San Diego Triathlon Challenge bike ride. He'd never been out of Ghana, never been on a plane. He had $3 in his pocket, got to San Diego, did the 56-mile bike ride on one leg. And afterwards, I'm like, Emmanuel, what'd you think of the bike ride? He's like, Bob, I did not know San Diego was so hilly. Well, that led to us having reaching out to Loma Linda Hospital to see if this kid was a candidate for a prosthetic. He was. That led, again, through the Ironman. We sent him, when we found out he was a candidate for prosthetic, we did a deal. We'd take care of the cost of the leg, cost of transportation.
Wow.
And they would take care of a homestay in the operation. So we sent him back home to Ghana, and I started thinking, if we don't capture this, what a huge miss. So the producer of the Ironman TV shows, Lisa Lax, had just left television. She had left television. She had won 13 Emmys at NBC. Her twin sister, Nancy, had won 3 Emmys producing the Tour de France for CBS. They started Like Productions. I called them up and said, hey, I don't know what this is, if this is a documentary or what, because they're starting a documentary film company. I would love to have you guys do something on this young man. And they're like, you know what? That sounds cool. When's he coming for this operation? Like 6 months? I'm like, no, 5 days. They flew on the plane. They come out. They film him. He has the operation. 6 weeks later, he does the triathlon. And goes home to Ghana, gets it's a ticker tape parade through the town of Koforidua. We bring in, he's got pants on for the first time in his life because he had a stub that came out the back of his knee. He's got a medal on from doing this sprint triathlon, and he's got a $15,000 leg on in a country with a per capita income of $400. So we fly him back to our event the following year. He does it bike ride with 2 legs rather than 1 and 4 hours rather than 7. He received the Most Inspirational Athlete Award from Robin Williams. Then we sent him up to Nike to receive the Casey Martin Award that Rudy won the year before. Then we sent him to New York to have a sit down with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, who's also also from Ghana, to talk about the rights of the disabled in Ghana. Then we sent a rough cut to Oprah, to Greece and narrate the film. Then the Lisa Nancy pitch ESPN on Jim McLaren and Emmanuel receiving the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPY.
Wow.
So imagine being in this theater when Matthew Perry from Friends walks on stage, introduces Oprah, who introduces this video piece narrated by Kiefer Sutherland on Emmanuel and Jim from Our Little Baby Charity. And then the following week, we're launching the film at the National Geographic Theater in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
The call that President Bush would like to meet Emmanuel because he'd seen him on the ESPYs Awards. So we're in the waiting room at the Oval Office, and we're watching TV, and there's these bombings in London in the subways. This is 2005, right? Yeah. And we figured for sure we're not going to go see the president. Well, as they're escorting us in to see the president, Rumsfeld and Cheney are sprinting out of the Oval Office. Right? And we walk in the Oval Office as myself and Emmanuel, my partner from competitor John Smith, and the most powerful man on the planet. And President Bush is like, Emmanuel, you know what I appreciate? I appreciate you were never looking for government help. You were looking to make a difference for disabled by doing something special. So when you ride your mountain bike, Do you ride SPDs? Do you ride flat pedals? Do you ride? I ride with my boys in Quantico, and we ride hard. How do you ride? Well, so Emmanuel is wearing his Ghana gown, like long gown.
Yeah.
And he reaches down to show the president how his leg works, right? Well, when he reaches down and unclicks his leg, it makes an audible click, which the Secret Service was not very happy about.
Oh my.
They start moving in. And the next thing you see is President Bush with his leg in his hand, right? So we get a note the next day from the guy who set up his visit, and he goes, guys, thanks for coming. It was great to meet Emmanuel. And FYI, we keep a list of the firsts that happened in the Oval Office. The first person to take their leg off in the Oval Office, Emmanuel Ofosu-Yeboah from Ghana. The cool part, the president of Ghana had done nothing to help Emmanuel with his getting a Disability Act passed, because people just beg on the side of the road. The next day, there's a picture of Emmanuel and the most powerful man on the planet together standing in the Oval Office. And when Emmanuel got off the plane in Ghana a few days later, the president goes, I will get your Disability Act presented. And 6 months later, it was passed. So, flash ahead, 2010, I'm riding mountain bikes down at the Warrior 100 with a number of our challenge athletes who lost limbs in Iraq and Afghanistan with President Bush. And the first night after we ride, we do the photo. And I walk up to do the photo. I said, Mr. Bush, we met a few years ago. I was with this young man from Ghana. And he goes, Emmanuel, how's Emmanuel doing? I never did find out. Does he ride SPDs? Does he ride Fireman? Does he ride gigs? And I told him that, he changed the nation. He changed a nation by having Disability Act passed. And so when people talk about sport not being powerful, or talk about how do I change the world? How do I change the world? I'm one person. How can I change the world? Think about Emmanuel Ofosu-Yeboah. And for all your viewers, go watch Emmanuel's Gift. It will change your life. It's an amazing film. It's on Netflix. It's pretty much everywhere, but it's very powerful.
Bob, you are an amazing individual. Your stories captivate. People can go to babbittville.com and find out more. I mean, it is just an honor to have you on here, and for you to keep that opportunistic idea for all these endurance athletes out there. Thank you again for being on here.
Anytime. We're in the greatest sport on the planet. Best of luck with everything you're doing. And I know things are tough being a fireman right now. And we need you guys on the front line. You guys are doing great stuff at your own peril, which I all of us appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate it. I love this sport. I love the people, and definitely keep doing what you're doing, Bob.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, Rob.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right.
And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.